All right, so it's been 3 weeks since we've been staying in this pop-up trailer, and it is time for that video you've all been asking for. The good, the bad, the ugly. We're gonna do a walkthrough. We're gonna highlight a little bit of everything, but really taking our time to talk about the things that we didn't even think about when getting into this pop-up. And they're probably things you haven't thought about either unless you've spent a lot of time in these. If you haven't seen our first video, it's about why pop-up trailers are the best small camper trailers for growing families and just families in general. And after staying in this for 3 weeks, we still hold true to that belief. But today I'm gonna get a little more glass half full and pick into some of the things that were a little irritating and definitely would become more irritating if you're doing this a lot or more full-time. So let's get right into this. So after leveling the trailer, it is unlocking these latches to get this thing popped up. So let's just start this off right here with my biggest misconception. I thought these were instant pop-up trailers. Yeah, I know a lot of you are gonna laugh at me for that, but truly I had no idea what the setup time was. And so we're gonna run you through our setup here, kind of giving you real time, but I'm gonna cut it and chop it up to make it an enjoyable video. But these are not instant trailers by any means. We follow Yak Motley, he's a fishing channel. Lately he's been doing pop-up trailers as well. And his fiance on there said it took him about 20 to 30 minutes. And May and I looked at each other and we're like, how is that possible? We thought maybe they were talking about, you know, the lawn furniture and the decorations. But honestly, after doing this, I think a good time of setting this up would be like 15 to 20 minutes if you're flying. So 20 to 30 minutes really isn't that unrealistic. So being only 3 weeks in this trailer does not make us anywhere near the experts we need to be to give you a lot of advice. So make sure in the comments you guys share anything you know about pop-up trailers, what you own, what you've been in, and differences in these, the pinch points, the great points, how they've changed over time, things that we all need to be looking for. Just let the community know so they can make an informed decision if wanting to buy or rent one of these awesome little trailers. 1980 Denver Post. Colorado Electric reserves a danger point. So when factoring in setup time, don't forget the leveling as well. I'm not going to include that in this video because every camper trailer you have to level. One of the first things we noticed in this pop-up trailer that we loved was the windows. In our last video we mentioned there are so many windows in this, it just feels so airy and it feels open. And we mentioned our favorite thing about these pop-ups is they feel like a tent when you're in there. Watch the other video. I know most of you don't want to be staying in a tent, you're here for a travel trailer, but there's benefits to feeling like a tent. But the thing we love quickly became one of the things that irritated us within like a day or two of using this trailer. So the location we've been staying for the last 3 weeks, it has storms maybe once or twice a day. There's always a storm every day. And that's how we quickly fell out of love with the zipper system. As you can see here, it's pretty simple. They zip up, but you're always gonna hit a corner, which could be a catch point. Then I'm grabbing from this other side, doing the same thing. And it's simple, it doesn't seem like a long process, but it compounds the aggravation. So remember, this is only one window in a trailer that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 windows and a vent. Now in the morning, I'm putting these up because I know a storm will probably roll in while I'm hiking. At night, we're taking them down again. And then as we're sleeping with a good airflow, a storm rolls in, so then in the middle of the night, we're getting up and doing it again. Now most small trailers, as you all know, it's just kind of an up and down window system. This is definitely going to take you a bit longer. And over time, you start cutting corners. And I think the cutting corners is actually the solution that worked best for us. So instead of putting these windows up fully, we tend to just vent them like this. So maybe vent a corner. Then when it's time to seal it up, we're only going around one corner instead of 2. And because there's 10 windows in here, I don't think you need to have them all open at once, but it does feel really good to have them all open. Another thing I should mention, these are YKK zippers. My family's been using this since the 70s and they're still holding up. Just like any other tent, I would suggest putting something on these zippers like a wax to maintain them, keep them moving. Because in my mind, eventually these zippers will give out if you don't treat them well and if you continue to use them and be hard on them. So one of the best things you can do is just take your time, zip everything slowly even when a storm's coming in, and keep them waxed. So this is one we should have done our research on, but we haven't yet. One of you in the comments said that older pop-up style trailers like this with the smaller rims and wheels have a threshold of 60 miles per hour, meaning somewhere in the manual it says you should not take these over 60. Now I don't know if that's true, let us know in the comments, but if that is true, I know there's some interstates down in the Midwest where 85 is the speed limit. And I'm all about going slow and taking your time and saving your gas, but going 60 in an 85, to me that is almost dangerous. So that's something I would look into too. Yep. So let's talk about the obvious thing everybody thinks about when they think about a pop-up trailer, and that is the canvas. People are saying, you know, it's canvas. What about the bears? It's canvas. What about my dogs inside? It's canvas. What about the mold and moisture? Yes, those are all great things to think about. They're all the obvious. I don't know much about bears. I do know in Alaska, as crazy as this sounds, the #1 small camper trailer you see throughout the entire state is pop-up trailers. I could see how a bear could come in here and do some damage during the day if you left food in there. I did a quick search to just see how many people have been attacked by bears in a small pop-up trailer. I couldn't find anything. Again, let us know what you guys know, stories like this. Maybe we don't want to hear them, it sounds kind of scary. But people are doing this all over Alaska. As for dogs, it's a great point. Many folks mention that, you know, throwing your dogs in here during the day is maybe not the best spot for a growing dog who's under a year and is still exploring things with their teeth, including your screen, windows, and all this fabric. And then moisture. Moisture is bad, is really bad for these fabrics. And that's why if you don't take care of these pop-ups, you see a lot of them looking really bad over time. The thing about moisture that people really don't think about is, yes, moisture hurts these, but that's only if you leave that moisture on there and you don't let it dry. And the time when that moisture is going to probably do the most damage for you is when you get the moisture on this pop-up right before you go home. And I think that's like the biggest downfall of this trailer. So you spend 20 to 30 minutes setting it up, maybe 15 if you're amazing at this, and then you'd spend another 10 minutes, 15 minutes taking it all down, and right in that process, or before it decides to rain on you. Now this canvas is wet, and you're gonna collapse it all in here and just let it all be against itself, pockets of moisture causing mold and mildew. So what do you gotta do when you get home? That's exactly right. You get home, you're exhausted, you just wanna put your stuff away and move on, but you gotta pop up this trailer again. You gotta pop it up again. Now you don't have to go the whole way. I don't think you'd have to, you know, keep everything secure, so there's a lot less steps, but it's still a lot of work. I've read in the comments, there's a lot of folks in here in their 60s and 70s, and they said they love pop-ups, use them their whole life, but there's some point where the cranking of the pop-up gets to be a lot of work. They're having their grandkids do it or family friends, and so popping this up once, popping it down again to get home and do it all over again may not be the camper you want if that drives you crazy. For us, still, we would still sacrifice that sort of time to pop it back up because we're already doing that. So as you know, we do some inefficient things. Is that even a word? Inefficient? We do some inefficient things in our camping style with our teardrop. We have all those side entry tents. What happens when those get wet before you go home? The exact same thing. So we collapse them down, throw them up in our roof box or throw them in our teardrop, and when I get home I have to put that all up in my yard again to let it dry. Not my favorite thing to do, but it's also not going to stop me from doing what I do out here because I love my outdoor living space. So this undoes for now. Then there's a hook here. Unlatch that hook. I've talked about this one many times. I love pulling over on the middle of the road, right next to a beautiful lake with swans, and just read a book in the little camper, looking out the windows, have a meal, even take a nap. Now I've told you guys I'm not doing so many naps lately with the kids. This cannot really be done with this camper without popping up the whole thing. I've seen videos with A-frame campers and pop-ups where they do stealth camping and sleep in it with the whole thing down. Yes, there's a little pocket of air in there, enough for you to get in and lay down. You really could take a nap, you really could read a book, but you have no windows, you have no walking space. And I think that's a big downfall of a pop-up. That at any time you want to use it, again, you have to go and do a big 20-minute setup just to sit down and read a 20-minute book. But you're gonna hear me say this over and over, I still think the large amount of setup time on these and some of the disadvantages are far outweighed by the space inside of these things and the small space for storing them at home and the gas you save towing and the ability to see out your rear view mirror while driving. There are so many great things. Again, check our other video if you want to see the positives on this. I feel a little bad for doing so many negatives, but that's me. You know, I'm gonna dig into things and I'm gonna find things that are little. So this design feature, the door handle, just gives me a laugh. And it's honestly May, my wife's biggest pet peeve of this trailer. Look how low this thing is. You're gonna see when I come in here, it just looks awkward. So my first question for you guys, owners of these pop-ups in later generations, did they figure out a way to incorporate the door handle higher up into this design? Or was it kept down here because that's the only way as this collapsed like this design? So look at this. So I come in here, doesn't seem so bad with my step, but wait till I get in here to get in. Now I gotta bend down here and I gotta pull this thing towards me to keep it in here. I'll show you that save shot from inside. Okay, tell me this isn't ridiculous. So I come in here, I bend way down, and latch this, and then up here is a latch outside to hold this frame in tight because the latch here supports the bottom frame of the door, but up here it's kind of loose. So in the middle of the night when it's dark and I'm trying to not wake up the boys in May, I'm coming over here, fumbling around for this latch, then coming down here, opening this and getting out. So honestly, not really that big of a deal, this door handle. So 3 weeks time, it didn't annoy me that much, but every time I reached for the handle, I did think, man, I hope there's an engineer out there who fixed this on the next generations. So again, share in the comments your experience with these doors. But let's talk about bugs. Every small trailer we've taken out, except for our teardrop, we have had bug issues. And I'm not sure if that's an age thing because the scamps are older, this pop-up trailer is older, our vintage trailer is older. So with time, the framing is going to move and adjust, the canvas is going to stretch, and you're going to have spots where bugs come in. And that was no exception with this camper. We had moths in here, mosquitoes, gnats, everything. So I think one of the first things you're going to do is just go around that trailer and fill in these spots. Because we're only using this for 3 weeks, we just did a duct tape job, held up well. I just want to know again from you guys, are the newer pop-up trailers bug sealed, or are you having little gaps here and there? Now, one thing to remember about this big, beautiful camper, it has to come down. This camper is only about this high. And so what does that mean for space for storage on the inside? Come on, let me show you. So like I mentioned, because this thing has to fold down, the majority of the storage space is down low. Now that may be an issue for many people who don't like to bend down or are not able to bend down. There is one large cabinet I'll show you here that pops up and is upward storage. But really, when I walk you through this, I think you're going to be surprised on the amount. So a lot of people in the comments said there's no storage, very limited because it has to collapse. True and not true. True in that, so let's say our Shasta vintage trailer, that thing is very efficient on storage, and it has more than this one. It has lots of drawers, it has closets, it has cabinets, but this has way more storage than our teardrop, and I would almost challenge the Scamp. I think this has the same or even more storage than a Scamp fiberglass trailer. Did I mention there are a ton of usable outlets in this thing? Way more outlets than any small camper trailer I have taken out, and they're in very convenient places that actually make sense. Below the bed. Attached to the central power pack. The inverter. Below the bed and the table. Great for video editing. Beside the window. Easy to plug in a fan. I think I take that all back. there isn't that many of them. They're just very well placed. Love how secure these cabinets are. I am completely fine pushing this button. I would rather have that than things flying around during transport. So there's two things that she keeps raving about these type of trailers. And one, it's just how airy and open and how this feels like you're living in the outdoors. And I agree 100%. This is why we came out here, to have a few amenities from home, but still feel like we are a part of the outdoors. But the thing that she keeps raving about, which I kind of laughed about at first, but now I am on board, is these privacy curtains. These little things give you that separated space that kind of makes you feel like a dog in a kennel. It's warm, it's comfortable, and cozy. And like we mentioned in our last video, you have a space over there for your kids and a space for the parents. No, it's not going to block out the sound, but it just gives you some separation in the trailer. And when we started these small camper trailer explorations, we kind of thought they were so small, they only required one space. But now I'm kind of rethinking all this. I think every trailer I possess or own or work on or sell, I'm gonna start adding little separated areas. And I think that just adds more usable areas to your trailer, makes them more functional, and kind of makes them feel a bit more like home. So our Shasta trailer, the vintage trailer right now, that's a project we're already working on, putting up a little privacy curtain so at night I can do some editing while May and the boys are at sleep, and just give us a little separation of space.